Hello students, very good morning. Dear students, today we are going to discuss remaining portion of the chapter Coming Home to Delhi by Madhur Jeffrey. This chapter is a reminiscences or remembrance of the writer and she remembers her childhood experiences in Delhi. When she was living at the home of her grandparent and especially when she used to go on holidays, that was something very thrilling experience for her. When she used to come back by train, so when a train used to cross Yamuna river, so that time mother used to give coins to children to throw into the holy currents of Yamuna, and if the coin used to touch water of the river, so there was that means people used to expect a kind of a blessing. If the coin was touching to the head or body of a washerman, no blessing was expected. When a train used to enter into Delhi, so the appearance of Delhi was something very beautiful, amazing, and usually it was a time of dawn when that birds used to hover in open sky like here manas and parrots. Okay, in train that vendors they used to cry hot tea, hot tea. That tea was served in terracotta clay. The taste was something very amazing and good. Okay, then she remembers about the rulers of the Delhi. As we know that Delhi was always a seat of rulers, and Delhi has replaced many rulers, and out of many, and Mughals were very very important. Okay, as writer remembers about the experiences of Mughals, so she finds that they brought out new food, new taste in India. Okay, and as rulers came from outside of this country, so they tries to eat their own food. Okay, so that food with the passage of the time it became a part and parcel or important part of Indian dish. Okay, so I'm explaining on the page number 106, so first second line. Coming from distant places, these rulers longed for the food and climate of their home. As we know that Mughals came from outside of this country. Babur, first ruler of Delhi Sultanate, out of Mughals. I'm talking about Mughals. Okay, so he came from Afghanistan. Okay, so coming from distant places, and from where they came from, distant places from other countries. Okay, these rulers longed for the food and climate of their own, and these rulers as they came from outside of this country, so they longed for, there was intense desire to get the climate and food of their own. Okay, they could do nothing about the weather, so they could not do anything with the weather, but they built gardens, water tanks and canals. The Mughals carved marble canals that went through their palace bedrooms, and they ate their own food. So Mughals were able to prepare their own food, okay, and they used to eat. As the years went by, some of their dishes were included and accepted as part of a city's local food. So with the passage of the time, what happened? That the food which Mughals brought out from their own countries and they were eating, that food became important part and parcel of Indian food. It became a part of Indian dishes. Like your food is given Persian style pulao that combined meat and rice, samosa, pakoris, and of course tea. So these dishes with the passage of the time became a part of Indian food. At my grandfather's house, the men in my family learned Persian poetry and ate delicate kebabs. Okay, as for your information, as you know that in many universities of India, the Persian literature is also taught. Okay, so people take degree in Persian literature as well. Many important writers are there like Umar Khayyam and many more. A number of Persian writers are there. Persian literature is there where many writers are there, they have contributed to Persian literature. Okay, so at home, the grandparents of Madhur Jafri, they used to read Persian poetry, and they used to eat delicate kebab that is made from meat. The women, though allowed some education, were kept at home for most of the time. When they played tennis, the entire court was cleared so that no one could see them dashing about in flowing saris and tennis shoes. Here she wants to talk about the that role of Indian Muslim in the society, where they were not directly exposed to other men. Okay, so when a lady from a Mughal family used to play tennis, so that time no other people were not allowed to see them. Why? Because the entire court was cleared so that no one could see them dashing about in flowing saris, because they were wearing saris and tennis shoe. On cold winter evenings, usually during this time, winter evenings, a wood fire was lit in the drawing room where three benches stood in front of the fire. This is a typical, Indian description, where before the fire log, a member of the family will sit. Okay, grandparents will tell some stories. Okay, lit in the drawing room where three benches stood in front of the fire. Here the children, about 24 of us, would sit playing word games. So small kids, what they will do, they will play. Okay, behind the benches was a circle of sofas and a large chair. It was from here that grandfather held court. Held court means here grandfather used to sit like a king and used to give, or he used to tell the story. He loved to lecture his grandchildren on Delhi's history, because Delhi was always a seat of emperors. So local people, they were knowing the history of the many rulers. So they grandparents usually they used to tell the story about kings of the time. Delhi's history and his best opportunities came of family picnics. Usually when family used to go for a picnic outside of the house, so that time grandparent used to tell stories. Okay, these were these were held in the winter or during the monsoon season in a well tended garden of a 17th century tomb or a 12th century palaces. So where they used to go for picnic, the garden of a 17th century tomb or a 12th century palaces. Okay, the entire family would go on the picnic. During my childhood, it never occurred to me that families could come in sizes smaller than 30 people. So that it is a typical the description in this chapter. There is a typical description of an Indian family where a lot of members are there in the societies. Okay, so therefore here when the family used to go for picnic, that time more than 30 people used to be there, swelling easily to a few thousand at the mention of a wedding. Preparation for the picnic would begin early in the morning. Potatoes in a hot tomato sauce, golden puris, warm moist meatballs and jars of pickles would be packed along with the fruits in the large baskets. So usually we also, when we go for picnic, so that time we take eating materials, everything, we all sort of preparation we do, so that we can after going at picnic site, so we can eat it. Okay, similarly here sort of preparation used to take place. Two cars would stand ready, gleaming in the sun. The art of getting 30 people into two cars had long been mastered. So in only two cars, how to manage 30 people, the family member had got a kind of mastery, skill. The first layer consisted of short lady and teenagers. On their left went the second layer consisting of 10 to 12-year olds. The third layer consisted of all those below the age of 10. The tall men sat in the front seat. On their left sat the 10 to 12 years old holding the baskets and pots that could not be stuffed into the trunk. So there was a layer, first, second, third. Accordingly, you know that people were managed into only two cars. Okay. Once we reached the gardens of the Qutub Minar, the children would rush to climb the sandstone tower while the picnic was laid out on a large cotton sheet. So usually you know that when we go at a picnic site, so we are having some clothes or a sheet of that piece of clothes which we spread, and on that we sit and eat eating material. So similarly, when small kids used to go at Qutub Minar, so they used to go and climb usually on rocks. Once we reached the gardens of the Qutub Minar, the children would rush to climb the sandstone tower while the picnic was laid out on a large cotton sheet. Once we saw all the food laid out, we would thunder down the hundreds of steps, jostling and competing to get there first. So once the food was prepared, everything was prepared. So when the guardian or the grandparents used to call, so all they will rush, they will run very fastly to reach at the place where food is prepared. Okay, the foods and places of my childhood can still be found in Delhi. Those foods which she had ate at her childhood, so even today they can be found in Delhi. Morning still start in a haze of familiar smoke sent skyward by millions of stoves and cookers. Okay, so even today the millions of cookers and that stoves, they produce smokes, and morning starts with in such a haze unclear image of Delhi. In those early hours, potatoes and peas are combined with ginger, turmeric, and green chilies. These are the the very common materials which are used in food of India. So okay, we can understand easily. Chapatis are cooked over hot fires, buttered and stacked with the vegetables and a piece of mango pickle in a tiffin carrier to be carried by many people on their way to schools and offices. So, okay, chapatis, then vegetable, then mango pickle. So usually people eat in India. So that was kept in the tiffin, and it was kept in the tiffins of the students. Okay, those who were going to attend school, or the people who were going to attend their offices, just as I did on my way to school in Delhi. And in the same way Madhur Jeffrey was also doing when she used to attend schools in Delhi. So dear students, this is very beautiful, especially the way in which the Indian food, people, Delhi is described. This is something very, very imaginative. It is something very nice to read this chapter. Okay, so dear students, you are requested to read this chapter. Okay, and I am going to send you question answer. Please complete in that. Okay, I hope it is clear to you. Thank you.